right here. Can I? Okay, great. Great. You'll find me. The content. Okay. Yep, all set.
All right, hi everyone. Welcome to On the Menu. Thank you for joining us today, whether you're in person or online. I know you're all very excited to be here, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you for joining us today. If you are unfamiliar with On the Menu, or maybe this is your first time being at Frontier, welcome. Frontier RTP is the only free co-working space within our area. And so we get the opportunity to provide awesome programs like On the Menu, which is a monthly lunch and learn. And we have rotating speakers and topics. So it's always fun to learn about what's happening in the area and also from hearing from different speakers. So next month, we will also have On the Menu, but it will be a little bit different. With the theme of February and Valentine's, we want to encourage a little professional matchmaking. Maybe you won't find love, but hopefully you'll find a new connection. This will be actively like networking. So we will be on our feet in person and it will be intentional networking. So you're not just walking around aimlessly hoping that you'll meet the right person, much like your love life. Today, we're going to be focusing on, meeting the right people, answering specific questions that you have. So you'll really be able to walk away with some really new great faces and new communities that you can touch base with. But today we are joined by Emilie Smith. She is the founder of the Set Collective. She is a coach, a leader, and a really great mom. Someone here. Not my mother, guys, not my mother. But we are really excited to have her here, and she's going to help us start on the right foot this January. But please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, Sarah Beth. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate the turnout. Hello to our online folks. We're going to start today thinking about the life you crave. And I'm really using that language specifically, craving, like craving ice cream or a salty snack or a thing you want to do. A craving is something your body is telling you. Your brain isn't, your thinking brain isn't the one that's like, we really want and need this, is it? There's something else going on. So we're going to pay attention to that body intuition. We're going to think about our own lives as research, and we're going to try some things out. You'll have the tools you need to take the first step, no matter the size, towards the life that you're craving. When I was going around the room, there are people in this room who are in career pivot mode, who are thinking about what this next 6 months might be, who are thinking about how to set goals for the year, and it spans so many different industries. So this is something that is deeply, deeply human, to try to figure out what it is we want and then take responsibility for our own lives and design it. So with that, who am I? Like Sarah Beth said, I am an entrepreneur. I love people. I'm endlessly curious about them. In fact, my friends are so annoyed with me when they go places with me and I'm talking to everyone else there rather than them because I'm just so curious about them. I'm a professional coach. I'm a people and culture strategist, and I'm a mom. My story professionally starts in the classroom. I was a teacher and I loved teaching. I loved creating community. I was a middle school teacher and I loved middle schoolers. Not everybody does. It's such a time of transition. And it's such a microcosm of the rest of the transitions we go through in the rest of our lives. So after I taught, this is me with my first crew of teachers who I helped develop. I did teacher trainings for years and years and led leadership development programs for nonprofits in the Bay Area. I was humming in my career. Every couple of years, a promotion, more responsibility. I really felt like I was innovating in the field. I was talking to lots of different interesting people. And then I had that sweet baby right there, and it interrupted something for me. I no longer could have the same self professionally that I aspired to have, and I couldn't square the kind of mom I wanted to be at home. So the models for professional life weren't working for me anymore. And I realized I needed to create a new model. So my family grew and I stepped back from the workforce. I stepped back for probably 3 years and didn't know exactly how to pivot back in. And that's when I found the body of work called Designing Your Life. How can I design the life I need, create the new working paradigm? And in 2020, started consulting and built the SET Collaborative, where I work with social impact leaders, nonprofit leaders, entrepreneurs, and anybody, any individual facing a transition in their lives. I help them go through and ease through and move through that. So today, let's hear who you are. Say hello to the person next to you on both sides or at your table. And then if you're online, please introduce yourself in the chat. Share your name, your location, maybe what you hope to get out of today, or what spoke to you about coming to the session.
It's not coming from the mic, it's coming from the speaker.
I can try without.
No, usually people.
They need it. Testing, testing, testing. Is that better? Testing, testing, testing.
I think so.
She is too hungry. I'm not hearing it anymore either, but I'm.
Getting
That's why I'm. Yeah, not my. Is this better? It's further away better. Closer up. Can you hear it? Testing, testing, testing. You solved it. Sheer will. Did I? Yeah, warm up that chat online. Get in there. Okay, wonderful. Wrap up that final share and hey, oh, I'm Emily. It's nice to meet you. Sai, good to meet you. Wait, wrap up that final share and then I'm gonna invite this thought into the room. There's something really special about both who I am and who you are. But today, that really special thing is who are we? There's a conversation in this room, says Adrienne Marie Brown, only these people at this moment can have. Find it. There's a demand that we make the most that we can out of this short hour together, and that the unlikelihood of any of us being here in the first place, just even on this earth, the millennia of ancestors who had to survive to make that true, and then that we would all come to this very same place at this very same time, that's sacred. And Adrienne Marie Brown is good to remind us of that. So here we go. If you are in the virtual space, you're going to need a sheet of paper and a pen or a pencil for this. If you're in the live space, look how cute these notebooks are. And you can use those or anything else. Bonus points for coordinating with the notebook and your outfit. I love it. So the first part of creating the life you crave is starting with the life you have. So we're going to use some of the Kolb model of research and adult learning that says you need to actually have an experience, then you need to reflect on that experience, make some meaning, and then take some new steps. So starting with the life you have, we're going to use it as research. You're going to draw an arc on your sheet of paper. It can be the year, the week, or even the last 24 hours as research. Starting with either January to December, bless you. Hey, welcome, glad you're here. Or maybe you are thinking, I want to do a little bit more local. What happened between Monday and Friday? And y'all, it's been a big week. It's been a big year. So if you're feeling any number of ways, no wonder you're alive. You're totally being and doing human being stuff. Or you can even look at the last 12 hours. What happened in the last 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The idea is you're using your real life as research. And what you want to do after you've drawn this arc is you want to look back and see just what happened. Just take stock of what happened. If you're doing it January through December, look back through your calendar, look back through your emails, or just think back. What were the big trips, the big turning points? And if you aren't ready to say what the big parts were, just generate what is it that happened? Here's an idea of what an arc might look like. I think that might be it. Okay. So this is what an arc might look like. This is my arc. I do this with my children too. They have their arcs. It's just the stuff that happened. Stuff that happens. My son's arc. His arc, he's highlighted birthdays, candy. It's important to him, Halloween. Yeah, really good question. Asking if you're doing the whole last year, are you doing a milestone? You can, if you know, if you're ready to say this was the milestone moment, or you can just start generating. Like when I looked back at January and February, I realized I was closing out one contract, starting another, and I just hadn't even thought about that as significant until I looked at the whole year across and said like, wow, you closed out something really significant that you were a part of for 5 years and you were just like, yeah, that happened in January. It helps us pause and say what actually happened there. What was the significance of it? And we'll take a look at it through a significance lens in just a second. Accomplishments, yep, accomplishments. Shifts, trips you've taken, relationships you've built or rebuilt. I choose arcs too because the nature of a line never, it's just too hard for me. It doesn't, the arc feels like it's got a little life to it. A beginning and an end, peaks, denouement. You're still capturing great. especially if you're looking at a year instead of a week or a month, or a day. Try to look for, as you take stock of the whole year, look for the moments of magic. What do I mean by magic? Sometimes you know when you look at it, but it's where was their joy? Where was their ease? Where was their resonance? You might circle those or star them, or if you travel with a highlighter, you might highlight those. What was the stuff that really worked? And some of it doesn't have to be the easy stuff. Maybe you faced a really big transition with grace. Maybe you had a trip that really expanded your horizons. Maybe you helped your team move through a trial or a tribulation. You're trying to identify what do you want more of and what do you want less of. And you're not starting with a new life you've been living. This isn't your first day here. So really important to think about what's the research, what's the past research telling us. If this becomes complicated or difficult for you, or you're trying to replicate it in the future, you can also start to pay attention with current time. What's happening this week? Where am I feeling most alive? And even that lens of starting to pay attention to when you've got flow or ease really helps highlight like, oh, I really love, and it doesn't matter the size of it, I really love when I'm one-on-one connecting with people versus multiple people in a group. That's when I really, but you're telling yourself something about what you want more of. You're giving yourself a signal about what you might be craving more of. Where was the magic? Where did it happen? I'd love to hear either in the chat or in the room, what are you noticing? What did even just that quick step one, taking stock, do for you? Yeah.
I think it was so huge when you said you've already been living, because I was starting to feel regret or like I wasted a bunch of time now that I want to pivot. But like you're saying, take inventory of what you've done because it informs your future, but there's things you want to take from your past into the future. And that actually just erased the regret. So that was huge.
Good. Yes. You've been alive. You're not starting from, you're not behind. You're right on time for your life.
I think what it's done is forced you to think about the positive aspects of your life, because human nature is that we're like in survival mode most of the time and we're thinking about our problems.
Yeah.
And so this has forced you to actually look at the half glass full.
I love that. Glass half full.
Just to add on to what you said, the physical sensations in the body are focusing on the positive. I think all the hard stuff that we do in the middle of the magic, we tend to drag our bodies around, kind of feel tired by it, but looking at the magic kind of like brought this energy into my body that was really inspiring rather than, "Hey, what do I have to do next?" sort of that feeling.
I love that. Eliminate the slog. Not what happened, but what happened.
Yeah.
So, for my role at, where I work, I'm a fundraiser, and so this is the time of planning, like we're really in the flow of planning, and the snow helped. But I was able to like just really sit down for 2 days and plan out the year and identify like, okay, we can definitely do that, maybe it's gonna be a challenge, and really strategize and figure out what the year's gonna look like. And that gave me energy to like get to work and say, okay, here's my, one of my colleagues, this is what we're doing, and this, and that gave me a lot of joy.
Oh my gosh, having a plan can sometimes feel like it can be the antidote to all so much stress and anxiety. Oh, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm up to. Great. And that's just the first part here. So I'm hearing that you're starting to hear some wisdom. You're starting to hear your body telling you something. You're starting to look at things from a more optimistic perspective. We're going to do, before we start to identify, just make all of the extrapolations of what of that do we just want to replicate. We're not just going to copy and paste that into our future just yet. We're going to do a little bit of heart breathing work. We're going to center ourselves to attune to more of our intelligence and our intuitive knowing. Sometimes when you sit down to plan, you completely activate your brain. That is a really good helper. Your brain knows about calendars and time. Your brain knows about barriers and budgets. That's super helpful. But it isn't a great tool when you've got the whole rest of your body, you've got the whole rest of your heart to tell you a little bit more about what you might intuitively know about what you are craving and wanting and doing. The brain's good for introducing some of the constraints, and constraints are super helpful. They tell us what we are actually have the resources to do, but they don't tell us exactly what our deepest desire is. And when you're dreaming, it's not a great time to say, hey, brain, what about this dream is practical or not? You want to listen to that craving. You want to dream big. And then you can let the brain add its 2 cents. So this is an invitation, a provocation. If closing your eyes and breathing and having someone lead you through that isn't for you, please don't participate in that. This is not a forced centering exercise. I will say that even the most apprehensive people who do sit and breathe, even for a quick minute together, report, and their data show on all of their blood tests and some of their moods afterwards, that even 1 minute of breathing with intentionality into the heart can shift a person into a calmer state of being. I'm seeing some heads nod. I know there's some like experts in the room whose body of work is this in particular. The other thing that it does to do it with other people is that once we're in sync together, breathing, that our levels of empathy increase for one another. This is already a very, very positive group of people. But when people in groups do things like drumming and breathing and things like that together, their capability to identify what their dreams are, to pursue those dreams, to have each other's backs just increases too. So it's both magic to breathe in oneself and magic for our corner of the world to do it together. So I invite you to either soften your gaze or close your eyes. And let your feet find the floor beneath you. Feel the points of contact with the earth. The earth is holding you up. Your spine in a nice long line, as if it is the connection between the earth and sky. Just start to pay attention to what your breath is already doing. Notice how it likes to be noticed. You probably lengthened, deepened. And before we breathe together, try to soften any muscles that aren't particularly important for holding you up. Your jawline, your brow, your tongue. And I invite you to deepen your inhale through your nose. Hold at the top. And let that go through your mouth. In your next inhale, start to picture that breath going and surrounding your heart center, into your chest, breathing deeply into your chest. And hold. And let that go. As you continue to breathe into your chest and your heart space, try to think of a regenerative thought, something like gratitude or love, something you're specifically grateful for, or that you specifically have love for. Let the air surround your heart space. Inhaling and exhaling. You can choose a light and any color or colors that you want, glowing out from that heart space. In, you breathe to it. Hold and let go. Whenever you're ready, you can blink your eyes back open and rejoin the room. Maybe your bodies feel a little different. Your nervous system helped you relax. And you have access to more intelligence, more intuitive knowing. And given that, I'd like you to visualize January 24th, 2026. You're going to describe your perfect day. You're going to go deep into this description on a fresh page where you are writing down the sounds, the sights, the smells, the textures. What are you doing with whom? How do you wake up? How do you spend the morning, the afternoon, the evening? How does it start and end? What role does work play? What role does leisure play? This is your perfect day. This will not look like anybody else's perfect day. This is yours, unique to you. We have so much media influence telling us what is the ideal state. How do winners do it? What does it look like to be successful? No one else could write this perfect day but you. Turn it off, turn it back on, check it. you finished with your perfect day, read it. And read it for places that are really big hits for you. Where is it like, oh yeah, I can't wait, I want that to happen, I want to do that. We turned on some of the parts of us that can help hear exactly what the hits are and what feels really great about that perfect day. What are you noticing? What are you noticing in your day? That is one of your indicators of something you're truly craving. So we looked back at our lives, either in the day, the week, the year, and we found the things that really, really were bright. What do we want to pull forward? We got our bodies ready and set to listen to creating in this perfect day. So what is it telling you? What do you want? Are you any clearer? People have all sorts of relationships and barriers to the things that they truly want. Am I supposed to want this? Is this altruistic enough? What will people think of me if this is what I really want? Completely normal. The good news is doesn't have to be the only time that you do this exercise. You can change your perfect day. It hasn't happened yet. What we want to do though is figure out a morsel from this perfect day that you want to pull forward and start to make a plan for the coming year. Before we move on, does anybody want to share any ahas they're having in the moment or anything for the good of the group, either online or in the room? No chores on the perfect day. Yeah. That's unexpected.
About that, like this old meme, like, what's your dream job? You guys dreaming about job?
What's your dream job? And you're dreaming about a job? No, I'm not. Yeah. Anything new that came up that might have surprised you? Yeah.
I think that the 2024 was a year of major transition for me. And so for this year, I keep picking the word joy in everything I'm doing. Like, is this bringing me joy?
Too late. Yeah.
Is this something that I want to be doing? Like, I'm just much more introspective as to how I'm presenting myself, but also what I'm receiving.
Joy. I like joy coming up. That feels good. Anyone else? Think, oh, yeah,
Oh, sure, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
I know joy is a nice word because it's hard to always be happy because even the things that we like, sometimes we find the novelty of other stuff. Convince you what I find interesting is anyone here that is very purpose driven. Where it may not necessarily be joyful, like a lot of things might suck about it, but it gives you meaning or it's helping other people.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's part of the human condition, right? We can't always be happy, or like suffering is inevitable, pain is not, or maybe it's the other way around. All right, we've got some insight into what we want, what it's just for us. And I mentioned this before, that there's the notion that we're supposed to replicate what somebody else has already done. Really very unhelpfully in social media, the minute you decide that there's something you're gonna do and your algorithm starts searching for it, I don't actually know how this works, but then you start to get all these ads for people who've done it before you, and they've done it faster and they've done it better, and all you need to do is just replicate that, and all of a sudden an hour of doom scrolling later, you don't remember who you are. You don't remember what you think. I had this beautiful experience with my family. We were on a nice hike in a botanical gardens that ended in a waterfall in this place where you could swim. Well, we had plans to go to dinner after that, so we didn't wear our suits for the swim, and so we weren't planning on swimming, but there's a set of lifeguards beside the place to swim in the waterfall. And they really want my kids to swim. They really are trying to push all the life vests and like, oh, you walked all the way up here with your mom and you're not gonna go in, and she paid for you to get in here. And it was beautiful surrounding. I was like, what is this guy's aim? Like, why do you want all these kids in that pool in the first place? So I asked my son about it on our walk down. He's 12. And I was like, how did that feel when that adult was like heckling you to go swimming? And he goes, oh, I know me better than he does. It's like, oh, profound. Oh, okay. I was like, okay, I know me better than all those Instagram feed things. Like, I was like, oh, I know me better than anybody else does. That's exactly right. So your dreams and your aspirations and what you were really craving, that's yours. It shouldn't be what somebody else wants. Your brand is so unique to you, it couldn't be somebody else's. So think now, why does this day matter to you? What would it mean if you could have it? What's the significance? So joy, but why joy? So no chores, but why does that matter? And no work or dreaming about work isn't part of it? Why? Why does that really matter? What's the significance? And then we'll thread this into taking some action steps towards that day. Why does this day matter for you? You can jot that down. What does it offer? What does it mean? Why is it significant? Once you're clued in on the significance, choose one aspect of it. This could be anything. This could be you want to get a handle on how to use your health spending account this year. This could be I want to get better bed linens that feel that texture that I described in the morning. I worked with a woman whose big ambition and intention and the thing that she was craving and wanted to figure out was how to get the Costco Caesar salad because they kept being out of it, and she wanted to really organize her time for that. Like, there's nothing too insignificant. And then bigger things too. I want to speak with more grace to my partner. I want to be more loving to my family and patient. I want to not care so much about where all the shoes are. It can be anything. Choose one of those things that you're craving. And the good news is, let's say you choose something and you're like, oh, that was dumb. Or like, I don't want to do that anymore. You just do it again, right? Like, you can choose another thing. This is not binding. This is just like something we're going to practice this with. And you can always go back and do it again with something that becomes more significant and meaningful for you. But right now, everybody should have something significant about this day and something that they know that they're craving. And we're going to work on a model to help you take action towards that next. We're going to define 3 possible first steps. I call this, I don't just call this, this is from the Institute for Professional Executive Coaching, IPEC, and they call it AIM, the AIM model. So the AIM model is, the A stands for acceptable. What is the minimum viable effort that you could make and take to take a step towards this dream day that you're craving, this dream life that you're craving? The ideal, this is like the exponential move. Like, I am doing something so huge that starting in 7 minutes, I am no longer who I am now. I am who I am in the future, and we are doing this now. Big jumps, big leaps. And the middle is somewhere right in between. It's realistic. It's like what I might actually take, what I might be able to do given the other constraints on my time. I don't want to hold anybody back from doing their ideal world. It's just that you've got to be in the right place at the right time in your life for it. You might be caring for parents and children. You might be in a new place or a new job. There might be other constraints. So it's such that you can't make this first step your ideal step. Or you might be totally full of energy and activation and resourced, both physically, financially, to be able to take a really big move. You get to do your ideal step then. That's great. Forward motion and forward momentum towards the life you desire is the actual point. So thinking about the acceptable, this is all of the good James Clear research too. If you want to start running marathons, put your tennis shoes by your door. Like step one is to lace them up, not to start running a 10K on the weekend. What's the acceptable minimum for your first step? The littlest, teeniest effort, looking in the direction of a shoe. The ideal is that you're couched to 5K this afternoon, and somewhere in the middle is you look up training resources for a calendar for how you might get to the 5K or the 10K or the marathon. And you pace it out and put it on your calendar, right? This is maybe the trickiest part, so if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate, either in the chat or in the room. Yes, Sarah.
What about for people who are having a hard time identifying that next step?
People having a hard time identifying that next step. If you're having a hard time identifying that next step, do you have the thing that you're craving? You got the life, you got the day that you want, right? You got that down. At least enough. Again, that can change, but something that you've got your eyes set on enough. And then if you're having a hard time finding the first step, rethink, like, what would be the very least I could do to get towards that? Take it through the paces. Does anybody have a concrete example? If you're like, I just really still don't know. It's okay to not know. We're the experts in our life, but often it can be really difficult to be that.
Spend time on phone or other things. Don't do that.
Don't do that? You don't want that?
I spend too much time on the phone or other things. I don't want to get right out of bed in the morning. So not always completely wasteful, but first step to me is to reduce that time.
Yep.
Not to say I did take some of those apps off my phone, but not
Huge.
to say I'm never going to look at the phone, just to reduce it.
Right. That's a great articulation of the different scaling of how to scale this, right? Like I'm gonna get, I don't know what they call them, dumb phones. I'm gonna get a dumb phone, not a smartphone. I'm gonna, like, that's, and that, I mean, ideal, it doesn't really mean ideal. It just means really big and exponential. But the first step is identifying, I don't want to be on my phone as much. So I'm gonna do this quick habit. I'm gonna set the bar low and clear it, and then keep doing that. The likelihood that we do more action if we've taken action is really greater. We want to stay in motion towards the life that we're really craving.
Actually struggle with the same problem. So another step could be there's a wellness app on the phone that actually tracks how much time you spend on each app, and you can pause the app after let's say I'm going to spend on, let's say, LinkedIn only half hour per day. So this will actually pause the app for me after this period is done.
Yeah, I just started using one of these things too that tells me the amount of time and turns it off for me, which is helpful. It's at least a cue. Sometimes I'm like ignore for 15 minutes, but it's a cue.
So is it fair to say that part of what you crave is being honest with yourself? Because there are these short-term dopamine effects that we're all talking about here. And it seems to me, what are your thoughts on getting an accountability buddy? Because maybe you feel more empowered and empathetic if you know you're there for someone else and not just yourself.
Yeah, I think all the good research says that having somebody who you trust, having a cabinet of people, an accountability buddy, is really critical for making sure that you're making those moves. Some of our commitments to ourselves and our relationships with ourselves feel so strong for some of us that it feels like a commitment that we don't need to make even more external, but it is really helpful. If you see yourself persistently struggling with it, invite somebody in who you trust. Even saying your goal out loud, the step you're going to take out loud, which we'll do in a moment here, increases the likelihood of the momentum staying in motion.
online community saying that, one of the challenges they're having is finding a hobby that they want to do with their husband. They've experimented a lot, done or tried lots of things, and haven't figured out how to make it happen. Could we try workshops where we can bounce with ideas and like something like that? The thoughts on how to get that.
Yeah, so the question is, I want to have a hobby with my partner and I want that, we've tried some things that hasn't worked, we've been experimental about it. What might be an acceptable starting point for that? What's the minimum viable effort that parent, that person can take towards?
Give them the remote.
Give them the remote. Okay, they're choosing this shared relationship and experience of, a media consumption of some sort, share the remote.
Have fun, turn it into like a date night, or like do like an introductory to pickleball class, just pickleball, just something fun.
Yeah, try something. Yeah, make it fun. Remember that it's supposed to be fun.
Ask ChatGPT to
Your best friend and mine. Yeah, ask ChatGPT. What do couples do? What do they like to do? This is what we've tried. It's not working. Okay, you can keep the chat going. And what's the ideal state for that? Like, it can be helpful to think about the two poles. What's the ideal state? The exponential shift that you're about to take.
But then doesn't it turn into ChatGPT's craves instead of yours?
Could be. Could be. You've got a new thing you're working towards. The ideal state might be that the two of you sign up for some couples retreat and you go tomorrow and you make a really gigantic investment in it. And so the idea when you create those two polar opposites of acceptable and ideal is like, yeah, but what's realistic? And I think it's important. I love that question because, hey, we've tried all these things. You've tried them. You might use that reflective practice and say, what if that worked? What didn't? Are we having fun experimenting with different things? Should we probably do something different every month and then see what that tells us? What are you learning about yourselves as a couple? And maybe do this together. I would love to know that my partner was like really curious about, they had all the things they could do in a workshop and they were thinking about how they could spend time with me more. Special. You might just tell them it's pretty acceptable. Other questions or thornier things people are working through to try to figure out what is it they want to do? What do they want to aim for? Yeah.
Maybe I'm behind everybody. I got stuck to define my perfect day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty much like, what would be a different perfect day for me? I mean, today is perfect for me.
Dang, you're living your perfect life. You're already doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. You can just maintain. That's okay. What a wonderful place to be. Is anybody else hearing that and like, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Interesting, but what's you don't sound like you sound like there might be a problem in there for you. What's the problem?
My morning went well. I'm healthy and happy. I had my stuff. Now I'm here with the group learning. But that's all about me. I'm not doing anything that's productive or helping somebody else or making change in the society.
Is that what you're craving?
I don't know.
Only you know.
Okay.
That's something came up for you. This was pretty great. I'm really grateful. That's all coming from a place of being really resourced, which is wonderful to be able to be an appreciation of your own life as it exists. But there's a wanting there, maybe. And even if you're trying to identify what the craving is, you're trying to identify what that wanting is, the acceptable thing could still be, type it into ChatGPT. How do people help the world? I bet there are some people in this room who are in philanthropic roles that might have an opinion about that. So your acceptable could be to just tell the room that that's what you're wanting to do, and here are the other people in the room who want to help you do that, help you plug in somewhere. The ideal might be that you quit your job tomorrow and you start to find exactly how to give away every item that you have and to the greater good of the world or something like that. And the middle might be something else. What could the middle road be for pursuing a way that you could be giving more into the world?
Just being a volunteer for some organization.
A volunteer for an organization?
Solar panels.
Putting up solar panels, yeah, absolutely.
Donations to charity.
Donations to charities. Absolutely, giving of your time, talent, and treasure. Yeah, Marianne, understand what's happening in your neighborhood, what's going on in your backyard. Excellent. So this is the process that you can replicate time and time and time again. You can sit down with your partner and do this practice with them. You can sit down on your own and do this practice. We started by realizing we already live a life. We started by reflecting on what has already happened and what's that telling me. The other thing that you might do rather than reflect, if you're getting a little bit confused in that element, like what even happened? There's so many times that we can be so not in our bodies that we can sort of like, I don't even know. So you can reflect back, or you can start doing action live research and you can live your week and then you just have a way to track your energy and your flow state. When was I really feeling it? When was I totally in the flow and when wasn't I? And I love this model of chaos into order. Then you center yourself, access some other ways, access something other than your brain and your thinking. And that's so important when we're planning because your brain is used to being very in charge and will let you know exactly what happens on step one and the outcomes. Maybe it doesn't happen that clearly and linearly for you, but the rest of your body has some information and it's probably wants to tell you and that you could access to have a really more whole embodied experience when you're deciding what is this life that you want to live? And visualize it. Visualize it vividly. The textures matter, the different points in the day, who you're doing it with, the sounds, the smells. Use that power of visualization to actually make it happen. And maybe you use that power of visualization and it tells you something about like, oh, that's actually not, never mind, that's not what I want. I thought I wanted to start my day with a run. I like that other people do that, but that's not what I want to do. I actually picture lower impact and ways for me to be in the world in the morning that are slower. That's okay. And then we prioritized. We said, what of that is the most important stuff? Made some meaning of it. Why is this significant? Why does it matter? And use this AIM model to help really narrow what the first step is going to be. I'd love for you to share at your tables or in the chat. What is your first step? Let's bring in the layer of accountability and hear yourself say that first step out loud. Of course, if you don't feel comfortable sharing your first step for any reason whatsoever, don't do it. This is not a mandatory thing. This is just another brain cue to help ensure that what it is that you want to do and your first step commitment will happen. Tell the chat, tell your tables.
Like the day that I came up which was with the exception of work.
Oh, that old thing.
Yeah. So, day outside is literally, I can it's remote work and I said, brain work activity. That's space for my I did split my time. So now it doesn't surprise me that I was happy with that. So when it comes to my environment, I really want
Hey, what came up for you? What's the next step?
Well, so I noticed that my ideal day looked a lot like the days today, but it kind of felt like one of the things that I craved was like the lack of feeling rushed in the morning and the lack of time. So I guess like one of the acceptable steps I put was maybe wake up earlier, but I also feel like that might also make me feel rushed, that I don't maybe feel rested. So I'm still trying to figure that part out.
Yeah. So maybe you could experiment with your mornings. Like,
Yeah.
why don't I try an early? Why don't I try a deliberate, don't pick up my phone until X or a meditation in the morning? All sorts of ways to slow down time and see what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Awesome. Awesome. Remind me your name.
Sai.
Sai. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And I feel like because I was doing that weird, like, when I was in the house, I like
So we our goals finalized for the year by this next Friday. So, the thing I put down was like, I walk, so I think the year was goals. A firm doing it, employee evaluation for the first time, is thinking about like, everything I want to accomplish in this next year, how do I go about it? And one thing we've talked about is
So I think by next year, figuring out how I can potentially invest in memberships and stuff like that, but they're really.
That's a fun commitment, investing in your friendships and just really realizing to make time for it. I don't know about y'all, but yeah, and it's not automatic, right? It doesn't just happen in the ways that the world might have been structured for you at certain times in your life where it just happens, and to be deliberate about it. It's a affirming table.
It is. Check it off your list.
Check it off your yeah.
I think it's the guy comes from the first back. Find the right job. It's hard because I've got a little bit here.
Okay, you've got an accountability system. You know the next move you're gonna make. We'll bring it on back together to close this out.
Then try to figure out how to get something. Yeah. Rather than try to look at the qualified ones and say, oh.
Let this be your last thought. Feel free to stay around and chat after. I love it. I love a busy room. I love people talking about their plans and intently listening. Nobody wants to stop listening to somebody else's good plans. How many people, by a show of hands, how many people are planning to take their first move within the next 24 hours? How many people, I don't think this is, how many people are planning to take their next move in 24 hours? Yeah. Yeah. How about in the next week is your first move, your first step in the next week? Great. How about in the next month? You're going to make your next move in the next month. All right. All right. In the next day, the next 24 hours, you might have missed me when I said that. The next 24 hours. Okay. All right. Movement, positive movement. A lot of the work that I do is about how to get unstuck, and we can really feel stuck. We are living beings and we can feel stuck in a life. We can feel stuck in a moment. And some of these tools help pull us out of the moment. You've been sitting in your chair, right? Like it's not as if we have moved, but yet you have moved yourself using some of these tools out of perhaps a stuck state. If you're still feeling stuck, let's talk or keep talking and keep using the tools until they work for you. One of the tools that I really appreciate for some of this work, if you're having a hard time thinking about exactly where you want to grow and improve, or if your day is feeling stuck, this is called a wheel of life. And again, this is from the Institute for the Professional Excellence in Coaching. And it separates your life into a couple of different categories, 8 different categories, and it gives you a self-rating system. I don't have the answers to what a 1 is and a 10 is. This is for you to do, so that at the end, you might shade it out and you'd have a picture of, whoa, I'm doing great at my personal finance and my professional goals and my family, but my health and aging is down. This can help you both set goals that are specific to any of the 8 areas. This can also help you make moves over time and see your progress over time if you revisit this tool to see where you've grown. The other thing that it can help you do, or the other thing that you can do with it, let's say you don't really care about a particular arena here, you can just cross it off and put on one that you do care about, right? When I work with people in a coaching capacity or with organizations in a consulting capacity, we take instruments like this to better understand what's happening right before us and to make some concrete plans to create a system and to systematize the change that we're seeking. That's it. I hope you guys got something out of today. I hope you bring it home. I hope you redo it. I hope you go through this exercise again and again, and that you improve upon it and make it tailored to you and your unique, interesting, and beautiful one, wild and precious life. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you next month for our networking on the menu. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah Beth.
I don't know what happened with that.
I didn't, if it's any
You talked
consolation, I didn't.
That's good.
I
I feel
could
like
hear it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I've been on so many like things that have gone awry that I feel like I can just
that's
figure out my own.
that's a talent, honestly, because I feel like I would hear myself and be like,
Well, every time I walked a little closer over there, I found that happening. So it's like, get me out of there. And that.
I think it's like the speakers right there. So I noticed like when I heard like
That's what,
right
oh, I thought it
under-
was over there.
Yeah, they're all over. So it was
Okay.
really
It's- No, no way for me to get out of it. Thank you so much. There's something so magical about having the expert in the room on the technology. It just made it, I just focus on the.
Everyone seemed to love it. Seemed to really. Thank you.
Things we do. And you're like, something new. Okay, good.
No, it was sweet.
Bye.